As Dr. Ho mentioned, I'll just give you a brief overview of the series. The series is, the first book just came out last month. So books 2 will come out next fall, and book 3 will come out in the fall of 2014. So it's a 3-book series from HarperCollins. And it's middle grade, which is a weird publishing term that just means it's targeted toward 8 to 12-year-olds. You may hear it mentioned as like the Harry Potter market or the Percy Jackson market. And all that means is that like the first couple of Harry Potter books are middle grade. So I'm going to put on my glasses so that I can actually see the text. And so this is the beginning of the Cloak Society. You don't just fall into supervillainy. It's not like theater or baseball or the after-school club you join because all your friends are members. Supervillainy is a way of life. It's something you must want with every fiber of your being. You have to wake up every morning thinking, hey, this world is mine for the taking, and mean it. Most people don't comprehend the passion needed to be successful in such a thankless field, one that boasts such a low rate of success. It's not all doomsday devices and dramatic entrances. Your days are spent plotting, strategizing, inventing, training, trying to prove to your city or your nemesis or yourself that you're not just some delusional screw-up who read one too many comic books. Every day you face humiliation, rejection, and failure. It's a life that requires bravery. If you call yourself Captain Terror or Madam Fear, you better be able to live up to the name. When you're backed into the corner, you can't hesitate to use your death ray. Supervillainy also takes patience. You have to lie in wait, lurking beneath the surface and watching for the perfect time to strike. Countless would-be criminals have met their demise because they threw on a domino mask and headed to the nearest bank without proper forethought. You see it on the news all the time. Just last month, a man in Chicago accidentally turned himself into a human popsicle during what should have been a routine jewelry heist because he failed to properly test his homemade freeze beam. It took 2 days of defrosting before police were able to fingerprint him. A week later, in Phoenix, a man decked out head to toe in black leather passed out from heat exhaustion while running from the authorities, completely unprepared for physical exertion in such an unforgiving material. And that same day, a caped woman managed to infiltrate the Los Angeles mayor's home and abduct his 5-year-old son. Unfortunately, her escape route led into a linen closet. By the time she found her way out of the mansion, she walked straight into the arms of a SWAT team. Had she visited the local library to research the house's floor plan, she might be lying on a beach somewhere, counting her ransom money, instead of sitting in a dank maximum security cell. In a way, such incompetence is a blessing for the real villains. It lulls the world into a false sense of security. Supervillain is a title that's earned from a fearful public, not one that's self-ascribed. The good ones have already won by the time their identities are revealed. The best are those you've never heard of. Of course, some of the most successful supervillains are those who were born into the life. You could decide today to devote your existence to some nefarious plot and spend the rest of your years training exhaustively, but your skills would never be on par with those of someone who was learning to escape from handcuffs at the age of 4. These kids are brought up to value domination and conquest, fueled by a sense of superiority. It is this small group, reared to devote themselves completely to the aims of their parents or guardians, who grow to be truly feared, for they believe their actions to be unquestionably right, that the world really would be a better place were they in charge. Supervillainy is not for everyone. It can be a lonesome life. Victories, for the most part, are personal. Heroes are the ones who get all the glory. For them, it's all press conferences and guest appearances on talk shows and monuments dedicated to their achievements. And they work so well together in teams, parading around the city in their matching capes and uniforms. For them, it's easy. A hero's goal is well-defined: stop the bad guys, save the city, maintain the status quo. It's not so simple for a team who romanticize revenge and thievery. In the end, the individual members of supervillain teams are usually just looking out for themselves. Their camaraderie is a sham, and this almost always leads to defeats. One team is the exception. Its founders were scientists tasked with researching new forms of weaponry during the Second World War. When their experimentation became unorthodox and dangerous, the world turned on them. The scientific community called them mad. The government threatened to imprison them if they continued their work, so the scientists took their research underground. There, they uncovered a powerful energy that existed outside the known electromagnetic spectrum, a radiation like science had never before seen. They called it Umbra. The scientists tried to harness it, but it was too powerful, too volatile for domestication. They were dismayed, but soon learned that their work had not been without benefits. Their exposure to Umbra had unique side effects. the team of scientists had developed uncanny abilities. They were now something more than human. When the government officials and the scientific community heard tales of these developments, they were all quick to heap praise on the rogue scientists they had once spurned. After all, this scientific breakthrough could be the first step in a new age of human prosperity. But by this time, the scientists had grown as bitter as they were powerful. They destroyed all their research and vowed revenge on the world that had turned its back on them. They promised to one day rule over the weak-minded. It was this common bond and feeling of having been betrayed that helped form the most successful supervillain alliance in history. They were a team first, criminals second. They called themselves the Cloak Society. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit so you don't have to learn about the geography of Sterling City, which is a made-up place, which is actually a real place in Texas, but for the sake of the book, is a made-up place. So I'll give you a crash course on what it is. Alex Knight is our main character. He's a 12-year-old, fourth-generation member of the Cloak Society. He has telekinetic powers, which means he has the ability to move things with his mind. His mom is named Shade. She's a supervillain, third generation. She's a telepath. So Alex has just gotten back from his first mission as a member of the Cloak Society, and they managed to seal this big diamond called the Excelsior, but the heroes showed up, the Rangers of Justice, and in particular the junior Rangers, who were the superheroes in training, so the other like 12, 13, and 14-year-olds. And in the middle of all this battling, Alex saves the life of a junior ranger named Kirby by pushing her out of the way when his teammate Titan throws a fire hydrant at her, like you do. So this is the fallout of Alex and his mom afterward. Shade dug inside her coat for something and finally retrieved Cloak's newest prize. She held the diamond up to the light, allowing it to cast brilliant reflections onto the floor. You know, she said, when the Excelsior diamond was found, it was the largest uncut diamond in the world, almost 1,000 carats. Can you imagine what it must feel like to discover something like that? To hold something so raw and powerful in your hands? It could have been cut into something truly remarkable, something the world would never again produce. It had such potential. And then it was broken down into smaller stones that were sold off one by one. This is just the largest piece of it, the Excelsior 1. Only 70 carats. A pity to have something so pure end up so common. Yeah, Alex said, though the diamond didn't look common to him. He wasn't sure what she was leading up to. What happened today? His mother asked, leaning against the edge of the table, her arms crossed loosely. Like I said earlier, the door was too heavy, Alex said, the words rushing out of his mouth. I just wasn't ready. If I had been given a little more time, that's not what I meant, his mother said, cutting him off. The vault was a long shot from the beginning. We're going to have to change the focus of your training from precision to strength. I'm talking about what happened with Titan and the girl. A moment passed between them. Alex wasn't exactly sure what his mother meant. She had been inside the bank, so she probably hadn't seen what happened, but she was a mind reader, and while he hadn't felt her probing his subconscious, it wasn't out of the question. He thought it best to respond as vaguely as possible. She was better than us, he stammered. Then, realizing that it made his team sound weak, he kept going. None of us expected her to be so fast or so powerful. She caught us off guard, and we never got back in control. Next time, she won't be so lucky. You pushed her out of the way when Titan attacked her, Shade said, staring into his eyes, unblinking. Alex opened his mouth to speak, but his mother kept talking. Don't try to deny it, Alexander. Even if I weren't a telepath, Titan's anger was almost palpable. Just tell me why. I don't know. That hydrant would have killed her. Can you be sure of that? His mother asked. She's a shapeshifter after all, and you know how resilient those Rangers tend to be. But if she wasn't, Alex said, floundering for an excuse. She didn't seem too concerned about wounding Titan when she was slashing at his chest, Shade said. Her speech was becoming short, her tongue snapping on each word, chewing into each consonant. She's just a girl. She's my age. He was now almost pleading now. I didn't want to watch her get killed. She's the enemy, and I guarantee that had your roles been reversed, she would not have hesitated to let you die. Alex's eyes fell to the floor. Pushing the girl out of the way had seemed like the natural thing to do, the right thing to do. But how could he explain this without sounding like a traitor to Cloak? He had trained so hard, had dreamed so often of destroying the Rangers of Justice and making the High Council proud. His temples began to tingle, and the hair on the back of his neck prickled. His thoughts were jumbled for a split second, like his mind hiccuped. It was a feeling that might have gone unnoticed by most people, but Alex recognized it immediately. He looked up at his mother to see that her eyes were a glossy silver color, pupilless metal staring deep inside him. Before he realized what was happening, Alex imagined a box of blue energy inside his head and pushed all of his thoughts of Kirby and the mission inside it. He stared at his mother's cold, lifeless eyes, silently focusing on the box, reinforcing its walls. Suddenly, it sparked with energy. Shade had found it. His mother winced slightly and raised a hand to her temple, as if she'd been overcome with a headache. Her eyes went back to normal, and she looked both impressed and annoyed by the strength of her son's mind. "My darling boy," she reached out a hand and smoothed down his hair. "This is no game. This is our life. The world may put the Rangers up on pedestals, but they are the cause of all the city's problems. They parade around talking about truth and justice, but what have they really accomplished? They've crippled the city, made its citizens weak and dependent on them. They pretend to care about the people, but all they want is the flattery and praise. The Rangers call us villains, but that's just because they don't understand us. They forced us to stay underground, terrified that we will take over and show the world what poor leaders they really are. When we are in control, and we will be in control, make no mistake about that, the people of this city will know exactly where they stand. The strong will join us, and the weak will fall by the wayside. Order will be restored. It's better for everyone, and once the world realizes that, they'll welcome us with open arms. Trust me." "I'm sorry, Mother," Alex said, and he meant it. "Today you disappointed me," she said, frowning. "I can't take the risk of your unpredictability will interfere with the attack on Justice Tower. The Cloak Society cannot risk it. Unless you prove yourself loyal and ready in the coming months, you are off the strike team. But it's not open for discussion. I hope you'll change my mind before the time comes. I want my only son to be there when we defeat the Rangers." "This is totally unfair." Shade narrowed her eyes. Alex slumped. "Is that all?" he asked. "You may go to your room," she said, turning her head away from him. He nodded to himself and walked away. When he was almost to the door, his mother spoke again. "Alex," she said. He turned to see her face look softer, almost caring. "Do you remember your first lockpicking set, the one we gave you for your 7th birthday?" "Of course," he said quietly. He had spent countless hours tracing the outlines of the cool metal wrenches and pins with his fingers. "What did I tell you when you got so upset because you couldn't get any of the complicated locks open?" Alex thought back to sitting on the floor of his room for days, various padlocks and old deadbolts spread around him. He remembered how frustrated he'd become, his fingers and eyes sore from concentration, and how his mother had made him feel better. "You said I was just thinking too hard. To close my eyes and feel for the pins and levers, that I just needed to believe I could do it." "Trust your power, Alex," his mother said. "Remember that the next time you find yourself up against a vault door, or any other big metal problems." Alex nodded. "For the glory," Shade said. "Hail Cloak," Alex replied automatically. As he walked out of the war room, Alex's mind flickered with the events of the day. They had retrieved the diamond and served as proper distraction, so Alex could feel good about that at least. Whatever his future held, he promised himself one thing. He would be at Justice Tower when Cloak defeated the Rangers. His mother's parting words reminded him of the countless nights in his younger years when she would tuck him into bed, chanting a short poem along with him, calming him as he drifted off to sleep. "For the glory of the society, I will grow mighty and strong, for we were born to rule the weak and right a world that's wrong. Hail Cloak."